Out here doing a little calisthenic workout today, but we are going to talk about homeschooling versus traditional schooling. Just got a question from my friend Emily on that, and I have quite a strong opinion on it. So that's what we're going to get into here while I have my final week in my apartments in Playa Flamingo, Costa Rica, before heading to my next spot. So I do want children. I want them pretty soon. I'm 26 and a half now. I'm getting there. I'm getting ready. Got to find a girlfriend first, so shout out. But yeah, I think about it. I think about when I have kids, what will I teach them? How will they go to school, homeschool? And I'm 100% sure that I want to homeschool my kids. And here's why. Of course, there's pros and cons to everything. So I'll list the pros and cons of each system. I went to school my whole life very traditionally, definitely was not homeschooled. I went to really high academic private schools growing up, and I had tons of friends who were in public schools. So I know what that does to a kid, the good and the bad. Here's the good, is that you have a diversity of teachers. It's a really good way to learn from a lot of different people, so you figure out your learning style, and there's expertise. You have a math teacher who just nerds out on math all day for their career, and they teach your kid that. Then you have your history teacher, your science teacher, so that's a benefit. It's more specialized. Then the biggest benefit probably is the socialization. And this is like a pro and a con. For a lot of people like me, sometimes social stuff was annoying. There's annoying kids, there's bullying. Sometimes if you're more of a nerdy type and not as socially easygoing, it can be really traumatizing to be in like a big school. I went to big schools, 500 students per grade, 2,000 kids in my whole high school, or more than that, maybe close to 3,000. And navigating the social hierarchy as a young kid can be stressful, but it's kind of a good stress, because whether you're really popular or not so popular, it's going to teach you something good about life and socializing for the future. And that's something that's much harder to achieve when you're homeschooling, because clearly your kid is not being exposed to the diversity of social situations. So that's kind of a pro and con. They each have the pros and cons. It can suck because of bullying, but it's good to be thrown into difficult social situations for your future and to figure it out. Typically school lunches, cafeteria, it's french fries, burgers, fried chicken, mac and cheese, it's sodas, it's totally gross. And that is definitely one of the aspects why I wouldn't want to send my kids to school. It's just hard to control their food. And then if you do control it, they're probably going to be pretty angry at you, because it's some kids will make fun of them. When you homeschool your kid, obviously you can cook for them what you want. And that's really important to me, to be healthy and to have the best food for my kid. I don't want them eating crap all day, or being like really influenced by other kids to eat a bunch of crap. Now let's talk about the actual content and the education. So even though I did go to like some of the best schools available in my area, looking back on it now, my teachers, who were probably some of like the best teachers in the area, generally speaking, of course there are exceptions, but I'm really being real. I'm thinking back to these people, and I spent a lot of time with my teachers because I did a lot of like going to ask the teacher questions in their office hours and stuff, because I was always smart, but I wasn't as like genius book smart as some of the other kids, and I wanted to do well, so I always did extra work, and I got to know my teachers. I sat in the front of class all the time, and generally speaking, I'm sorry to, like, teachers are amazing, but in my experience, the teachers I had were old, boring, not very, like, spiritually evolved or understanding, at least my experience with them. Who knows what they were like in their private life, but they were not the most inspiring figures, and a lot of times it was just so stressful being in a class with a bunch of kids, and you don't think the teacher really cares, and they're just boring, and they're just getting through it, and like they're usually not physically fit. It just wasn't inspiring for me. And the thought of my kid being taught first, second, third, fourth, all the way up to like, you know, 9th grade math, for instance. I can teach a kid if I had a textbook as well, easily, 1st through 9th or 10th grade math. I could totally do that if I was a parent and had a textbook. So why would I let some uninspiring person who maybe like my kid doesn't even like and isn't the most positive figure, why would I want to give them the job of teaching my kid about the world? I'm so opinionated. I'm so opinionated and different from the mainstream on history. Like, think about what you learn in history. It's fucking bullshit. You don't learn about the corruption in politics. You don't learn, I remember in 3rd or 4th grade learning about Christopher Columbus and all the like purely positive things of us exploring the new world and colonizing America. I would teach my kid differently and talk to them about the issues of colonization and how we need to appreciate native and indigenous communities. I mean, these are things that you can't just hope that your public school teacher teaches you the truth, in my opinion, about politics and about history and about climate change and environmental science as a young kid. And those are all the things that I want my kid to learn when they're young. So why would I give that opportunity to people who I don't think are going to do as good of a job as I can? Now, the issue is once you start getting into those realms where you can't teach your kids stuff like pre-calculus or calculus or really high-level biology. Those are things that I probably, when I'm a parent especially, won't remember a lot of stuff. So here's where you run into the issue. And there are solutions. The solution, well, so that's kind of a pro school thing, is that you have teachers that are experts into the 11th, 12th grade or whatever, so your kid can learn it. But I think with textbooks, and you kind of learn it with your kid, you can probably teach them enough. And when you think about it, I don't remember any of the technical skills in calculus, my higher levels of science and stuff. I don't remember any of that information now since high school or even college. So if you think about it, most kids aren't gonna need even all those really technical, difficult things that are taught generically in school, unless they, of course, want to be a doctor, want to specialize in something. But that's what college is for. So I think I can teach my kid essentially everything that they need in order to get to college. And then once they're, without teaching them all the bullshit and getting them so stressed like kids usually do when they're at school and have to learn stuff that they're not even inspired about because high school isn't specialized. You have to just take everything. And some kids already know what they want to do in college and in life when they're 14, 15, 16 years old, but they have to go through all this other crap and get stressed and waste their time, and they're gonna forget it the next year. We forget like everything we don't care about, but I had to go through so many hours and stress with tests and learning stuff that is completely out of my mind, and I'll never get it back, and it doesn't even serve me because that's not the path that I'm taking in life. So I think, and here's why I know I can get my kid all the education they need until college, and then they can go make that choice once they're 18 to go and pursue whatever they want, whether that's going to college or not going to college. I met a guy in Alaska who had 2 kids and a wife. I stayed with them in Tok, Alaska, and he was the science teacher at the local public elementary school. He grew up in the woods. He had 0 neighbors, there were 0 roads. He grew up in an off-grid house with his sister and his 2 parents until he was 18 years old, 100% homeschooled without even any community around him. And his parents taught him everything he needed to get into a good college. He then left the woods, went to college, got a master's, went to grad school, and now is a teacher, a science teacher. So that's proof right there that if you homeschool your kids and do a good job and you get to teach them what they really care about and you get to teach them your point of view on the world, not some other boring teacher's point of view on the world to influence your kid, and then they can go off and make that own choice. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I want to homeschool my kids. Now, the people who have like careers and your parents and you have jobs and careers and you're like, well, I don't have time, I'm at work all day. That's your choice of how you want to be a parent. Personally, I want to figure out how to make enough money for my family where I work my own hours, sell art, grow fruit on the farm, grow my own food so my living expenses are low, so that I can spend kind of all day, every day teaching and hanging out with my family and kids. That seems like the right way that I want to parent. And it's not for everyone. It's just the way I definitely feel most inclined to do it. So that is my opinion on homeschooling versus traditional schooling. I am definitely homeschooling my kids 100%. Thank you for watching the video. Peace.